Hey y'all, I'm Hope. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing my last book haul for 2022. This is all of the books that I got in the last quarter of the year from October to December, and a quick update on where my TBR is at. Last year I had the goal of trying to reduce my own TBR, and I failed miserably at that. In fact, it grew every quarter, including this one, but to be honest, that's okay. I'm gonna work on this again for 2023, and I feel like everything that's on my shelf is something I'm really excited to read. So like overall, it's not a terrible thing, it just was a horrific failure of the goal that I had had. But for this quarter, I started at 310 books on my TBR, and I ended at 331 books on my TBR. Some of these were because of sales, some of these were from the used bookstore. It was kind of a variety of things that happened that resulted in that kind of growth on my TBR. I don't think that was the biggest growth in any quarter, but I think it might have been the second biggest. I don't quite remember, but that's where we ended up. And yeah, I have a lot of books here to talk about. So I think what we're going to do is start with the ebooks. We'll go through those, and then the rest of these I'm going to try and go through and tell you the title, the author, and just like a quick description of why I bought the book, or you know, what it's about. It's going to be hopefully as brief as possible because there are a few here and I am quickly running out of daylight. So the first ebook that I bought was Men, Women, and Chainsaws by Stephen Graham Jones. This is a short story about a young woman who wants revenge on an ex-boyfriend who broke her heart, and around the time she starts planning this revenge, she encounters a car that requires blood sacrifices. And that's all I'm going to say on that one, because this is a really interesting story that goes in ways that you're just not expecting when you start it, and I think this is a really fun short story. Next up, I got Dead Until Dark by Charlaine Harris. I needed this for a class. It was a class pick, one that someone suggested and we all voted, and it was one of the ones that got picked. This is the first book in the, what is it called? Sookie Stackhouse series, and it's also the book that inspired True Blood. Next, I got Into the Riverlands by Nevo. It's the third book in the Singing Hills Cycle series, which is a series that I love. It's about storytelling and about whose stories get recorded, what stories get kept, which histories are deemed important, and who gets to make those decisions, and whether those decisions are always good or the right decision. Next up, I got The Red Scholar's Wake by Alia de Bedard. I don't know much about this. I know it's about sapphic space pirates, and that's all I've got, but it sounds fantastic, and I love everything I've read from her, so I'm really excited for that one. Then I got Slippery Creatures by K.J. Charles, which I believe is a historical romance with two guys that meet while solving a mystery. That's all I got. That's all I know about it. I got this one because I happened to be free on Kindle one day, and I saw that the author Freya Marsk tweeted about it being like one of her favorite romances, and I really like her writing, so I figured if she says it's good, it must be good, so I decided to check it out. Next up, I have Goblin Market and Other Poems by Christina Rossetti, which is a book that I got for an upcoming class. Then the last three ebooks I got were all from the Orbit sale that they did, I think through maybe it was just December, but it was a sale for ebooks for their new debut authors. So I picked up Notorious Sorcerer, Empire of Exiles, and The Stars Undying by authors whose names I cannot currently remember, but they will be on screen somewhere. So I picked up these three just because they sounded interesting, but I don't know a whole lot about any of them. So those are all of the ebooks that I bought last quarter. So on to the physical books. I don't have these in any particular order. They are in the order that I pulled them off my shelf in. So we'll just start with this random stack. Up first, I have Vagabonds by Hao Jing Fang, which is a literary sci-fi about people from Mars who went to Earth as a delegation, were raised there partially, and now have returned to Mars later as, I think, young adults. And it's about them trying to reintegrate into Martian society after having been away for so long. I think this sounds really interesting, and I believe this was also translated by Ken Liu, which I thought was cool. Next up, we've got Eyes of the Void by Adrian Tchaikovsky, which is the second book in the Final Architecture series. I'm planning to binge this one, not this one, the first one and this one, hopefully in the next couple of months. I have to see how school is going, but I have plans to read this series soon. Next up, I have Ocean's Echo by Everina Maxwell. This is her second book set in the same universe as Winter's Orbit, and this is a sci-fi romance, but it's also military sci-fi. It really leans more into the military sci-fi than into the romance element, but it's about two guys who are kind of pushed into the situation where they have to sync, which means one of them kind of takes over the other's mind, and there's also like a conspiracy and a coup, and just kind of chaos ensues. Then we've got A Restless Truth by Freya Marske. This is the sequel to A Marvelous Light, which was one of my favorite books of last year. Sorry. Yes, last year. I was about to say, sorry, not last year, but yeah, correct. 2022. This is the sequel, and this one follows one of the protagonists from the first book, Robin. It's his sister, Maud, and she meets a woman on a ship, and the two of them work together to solve a murder mystery, and also it's like Maud gets a girlfriend. So I'm really excited for this one. I loved the first book a ton, so I'm really looking forward to reading this one hopefully soon. But again, I'm not sure what school's gonna do. Next up, I have The Southern Hospitality Myth, which is a book I bought for a paper I was writing last semester. Then we've got Silver Under Nightfall by Rin Chupeco. This is a book about a vampire hunter. I believe he also is half vampire himself, but he has been raised to hunt vampires, but gets involved with a vampire couple who make him rethink his stance on vampires and his kind of understanding of his world. I think this sounds like a lot of fun, and I've heard some really good things about this book. Next, I've got Finlay Donovan is Killin' It by Elle Cosimano, which is I think a cozy mystery from what I've heard, but it's following a woman who's a writer, and she gets overheard talking to her agent in a cafe, and the person who overhears her mistakes her for a hit woman and tries to hire her to kill her husband. Tries to hire Finlay to kill the woman's husband. That was a lot of hers in one sentence. Anyway, woman gets mistaken for hit woman, chaos ensues. Sounds like a lot of fun. Trying not to knock over everything. The next few books are all things that I picked up during Barnes & Noble's half-off hardcover sale. So first I have Tread of Angels by Rebecca Roanhorse. This is a novella following two women in a kind of, I think, slightly dystopian fantasy town. It's a mining town, and one of the women is accused of having killed one of the town's leaders, and her sister is trying to prove her sister's innocence, but gets involved in like the local corruption and politics of this mining town. Then I've got Loot by Jennifer Thorne. This is an author whose name I always get wrong, but this is about a woman who marries into the aristocracy on this island just off the coast of England. And on this island there's something called The Day, in which people are sacrificed to ensure good fortune and good health for the rest of the people on the island. She doesn't believe that it exists until the day happens. And then this is a story of the horror of the day, but also of like community and love and what people are willing to do for the people they care about. Next, I've got Three Assassins by Kotaro Isaka. This is a thriller about a man who quits his day job and joins an organized crime gang after his wife's death so that he can get close to the people responsible for her death and try to get his revenge on them. In doing so, he ends up having to face off against three assassins, each with their own gimmick, and try to survive encounters with them so that he can get his revenge. I also got these at Barnes & Noble during this sale, but they happen to have like a buy one get one half off on paperbacks at the same time. So I picked up The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. I almost thought I had that name wrong, which is, I believe, a mystery about a group of elderly people who end up trying to solve a live mystery after having, like, spent time working on cold cases, which I think sounds like a lot of fun. And then I also picked up The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton, which I believe is a time loop mystery. Then I picked up, not during the sale, at a separate time, Genesis of Misery by Neon Yang, which is a sci-fi incorrect. I'm about to give you the pitch for a totally different book. This is a sci-fi retelling of Joan of Arc, and there's like mechs involved, and I just think it sounds like a lot of fun. Then I got The House of Binding Thorns by Aliette de Bedard. This is the second book in her Dominion of the Fallen series, which is a political fantasy series set in an alternate version of Gothic Paris. And I just bought this because I had books 1 and 3, and I'm hoping to read the series soon, so it felt silly that I only had books 1 and 3. So I went ahead and picked up the second one. And then the pitch I was about to give you was for this book, Unconquerable Sun, which is a gender-bent sci-fi retelling of Alexander the Great set in space. And now we're down to the last few books. I have here A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson, which I believe is a retelling of Dracula from the perspective of one of his wives. I've heard so many great things about this book. I've heard that the writing is really beautiful and that it's a really interesting story about like abuse and healing. So I'm really curious to see where this is gonna go. I read a few pages of it and I definitely agree with the people who said that the writing is pretty. So I'm looking forward to reading this one, and I'm actually hoping to read this alongside Dracula or just after reading Dracula, because I actually have not yet read Dracula. So I'm hoping to create a vlog for that. Then I got Sign Here by Claudia Lux, which is a book that was going around a little while back about someone named Peyote Trip who works in hell, and he needs to get one more person of the, I think, Harrison family. Yeah. He needs one more person of the Harrison family to sell their soul so that he can get a promotion. And it's about the drama that is unfolding in the Harrison family and the things that Peyote is doing to try and get one of them to sell their soul so he can get this promotion. And that's all I know, but I've heard, again, a lot of good things about this one when people were reading it a couple of months ago. So I'm really excited to check this one out because it's not something I think I would normally pick up, but it sounds like it could be really great. And then the very last book that I got in 2022 is Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. This one I received as a Christmas gift from my partner's mom. She's just like a super sweet person, and she sent me this and also a cute little bookmark that's got my first initial on it. But this one is a cozy fantasy series about an orc who wants to retire from adventuring to open a coffee shop. And I just think that sounds like delightful. And a friend of mine is currently reading this and said that it is. So anyway, those are all of the books that I acquired in the last quarter of 2022. I'm not going to try and pick them all up because they will go everywhere and I will scare the shit out of my cat again, which I am going to attempt to not do. But that's pretty much all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I really appreciate it if you stuck around to the end. If you like this video, I hope you'll consider giving it a like, maybe even subscribing to see what comes next. I'm currently posting every Tuesday and Saturday, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.